This is the one that a lot of people were intrigued by because a lot of people were pointing blame at Andy Heck for the reason why we went with the same offensive line in the second half of that game. But here's the quote. So Kansas City's offensive line had held together until the most important game when it faced the opponent whose roster is built around offensive and defensive line play. Thuney, one of the best guards in football, had filled in nobly at left tackle since week 15, playing the role because Kansas City's younger tackles needed more time to develop. When Ried suggested moving the all-pro left guard over to left tackle, offensive line coach Andy Heck was not sold on the idea. They'd be sacrificing on the interior and asking Thuney to do a very different job out in space battling the best edge rushers. Ried's solution was another example of the Chiefs' in-season problem-solving, and it was enough to get them to the Super Bowl, but the Eagles' defensive line made it clear that this was not a permanent solution, and the entire offensive line struggled to protect Mahomes. So JD, a lot of people even on this show last week, I think Amda was talking about Andy Heck potentially being cut loose, and there's a lot of people online just dogging Andy Heck's kind of ability to really not put together a good game plan against the Eagles' defensive line. But hearing this, what do you have to say about this? The fact that Andy Heck was, like we said, he noticed that we were sacrificing the interior by putting him out there. What do you make of Andy Heck's quote here on this?
So man, I tell you what, it's really glaring in the sense that for a guy, and we got to understand that Andy Heck is, to me, is one of the top O-line coaches in the NFL. He's developed some guys that's been here. He has done that. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. He's just helped Juwan Taylor. He helped Orlando Brown when he was here. Guys get better. Wiley. I mean, you name it. Andy Heck has done a good job. He's done a heck of a job, right? Pun intended for sure. But this quote right here, I think, kind of speaks to volumes to me. It really does. And the reason it does is because I think he's seen the problems. He knows what he's dealing with. And so for him to kind of sit back as a coach, O-line coach, he knows what his concern is. He knows what these guys can and cannot do because he's with them every single day. He's the one that's with them during practice planning, practice drills, meetings, film, you name it. Andy Heck is their guy. That's their coach. That's the O-line coach. And so when he wasn't sold on the idea, he knew if we decide to make this move, moving Joe Thuney out, then we are compromising somewhat of our inside with Mike Caliendo. Even though he knew Mike Caliendo's a good, he's a good offensive lineman, he realized that, to the elite level on things, it's going to be some problems, especially going into like the playoffs. And I think we've seen it. We've seen it, Marcus. I wanted to kind of show a little bit where there was a couple of guys on a podcast that said kind of the same thing. And I think it was this one called Chief Concerns. And we were a little bit reticent of somewhat of the move. And it really had to do with it could not be the permanent solution to this issue. Because when it ended up happening, Joe Thuney went out, started blocking, and I'll tell you where this kind of started with us was the Cleveland game when he started blocking Myles Garrett. He did a great job against Myles Garrett. But I said, you know what? What Myles Garrett has done is he's actually given other teams kind of the blueprint on how you attack Joe Thuney. That's what he's done. PFF came in and they gave a grading to Mike Caliendo. Mike did a great job that game. He did a good job. But had him rated with the second best against the pass rush and third, I think, on the run that week. And, PFF throws their numbers out and they have their measurements, how they look at it. I know what my eyes see. I know what and this tells me what Andy Heck's eyes see also. So PFF, sometimes I think we listen to these things and look at some of these ratings and we kind of take that as gospel in a sense. We do. And I think it's at least for me, a guy that has played and has coached, I see things that maybe PFF guys may not, see, or maybe they do see it. I'm sure they have people in the house that know things. I do. So they have their own measurement of how they look at guys, right? So even though they had Mike Calley and those guys for that game, that was also where we got pressured the most since 2022. The most pressures, the most quarterback hits on Patrick Mahomes since that time. Matter of fact, Patrick Mahomes ended up getting hurt. He went to sat down. Remember we talked about it. He's like, Pat didn't want to come back in the game because he was getting tattooed. Well, part of the reason was we decided to run the football 11 times in the second half. Even though we had them beat by 2 touchdowns, we decided to throw the ball all around the field. We had like 27 carries that game, but 11 of them came in the second half, which is crazy. We spoke about that. We spoke about it. But this right here kind of, it really exposes a little bit as far as like some of the, the decisions that's being made, okay? Now, I'm not saying that Andy didn't trust the guys. Andy Heck, I will, right? I know Andy Reid he knows these guys. He's an offensive lineman. He knows these guys. And he trusts them. And he should. But I just didn't believe it should have been a permanent solution. And I think part of that, what you get is this false sense of security sometimes, because it's like, oh, man, this is kind of working. Everything looks all right. Everything looks fine. We should go ahead and continue this over. And I'm just like, yeah, man, week in, week out. I'm like, I get it. Everybody keeps on, oh, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm like, yeah, it's a little beat up. It ain't fixed. This is a Band-Aid on a flesh wound is what this is. So that's not a long-term solution. So this is glaring to me as far as like Andy Heck saying this, man, because he knows his guys. He knows it. Now, what does that mean, right? Going forward, Marcus, okay? This is why we discuss these things. As far as why people was upset what I had on my draft board, I didn't see any O-linemen on here, right? Well, I think we have guys in-house. One of the guys I talked about was DJ Humphries. How was he toward the end of the year? Was there a reason why he didn't come back out? Now, I wish somebody had asked Andy Heck that reason. We came to DJ Humphrey. He was like, hey, man, I didn't feel right. But yet you were out there ready to play. You just got hurt. You was coming in. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions there, man. But this is really glaring to me how this works, or how the decision was being made.
And I've seen a lot of people say, and this is obviously speculation, right? Because we don't know this, but a lot of people say it's clear to them that they kept tuning in there because that was kind of Patrick felt the most comfortable with him at that left tackle spot. But my thing is, okay, fine, keep tuning out there. We talked about last week. Our guy Kingsley was warming up during that game to go into left guard, but they decided to keep Caliendo in there, and that was kind of like, that's where the issue lies. But you kind of mentioned some good stuff about Heck. People want to, they want to. There has to be a reason or a person behind this, right? Oh, we lost. Someone's got to pay the piper for this. Andy Heck, get him out of here. Well, let's be honest and let's look at Andy Heck and let's look at what he's done, his body of work. Thuney gets hurt in the Super Bowl playoff run last year. Nick Allegretti, who like the Caliendo this year, comes in and fills in awesome. And what happens to him? He gets a big contract, goes out to Washington, and made a pretty solid team this year. One of the best offenses in the league this year. Yeah. Andrew Wiley, a couple years before that, right tackle. I mean, this guy, no one thought he was going to be a right tackle. Comes in, fills in perfectly. Gets a nice solid deal from Washington as well. Goes over there. And look, Wiley and Allegretti are both the two starters for a really good offense this year. One of the highest scoring teams in the league this year. Trey Smith, probably gonna. They say I saw read a report over there. He's going to reset the market this year, and I think that probably keeps us out of keeping it back. But he was a 6th round pick. Not saying Trey Smith didn't already have the talent. There were some medical red flags with him, but day one, Andy Heck sees the talent he has. He works with him right away, and Trey Smith becomes our starting guard right off the bat. So and then also this is kind of, I'm going to go back here a little bit. Andy Heck had Rodney Hudson, who ended up getting a second contract with another team, becoming the highest paid center. Mitch Morse, center, plays with Kansas City, then becomes the next highest paid center in the NFL. And then we get Creed Humphrey. And I'm not saying this is all Andy Heck's success, but to say of them amongst the 3 highest paid centers over the last 10 years in the league have been Chief players who have played with Andy Heck. It's got to say something about a little bit about Andy Heck. Sure, a lot say about these players, how good they are, but I'm sure those players, if you ask them what Andy Heck meant to their careers and how they got the starting gigs and the contracts they got, I'm sure a lot of these guys would pay Andy Heck some respect on where they've gotten because of him in the league. And I think a lot of people are just not really thinking about the full picture of what Andy Heck has done for our offensive line. And you know what? And a lot of these guys are 6th, 7th round picks or undrafted guys. And Andy Heck's, I think, he's done pretty well with some of the guys he's gotten.
No question about it. And that's why I had to push back against some of the people talking about, well, Andy Heck's not doing his job developing, Wanya Morris and King Suma, right? And I was just like, hold on, man. Look, a coach is there to manage and make a guy better, help him get, up to speed with things. But also too, he can't get a guy to play above where he's at if he just don't have that ability. You can't. And sometimes it's just going to take time. And I'm not saying, I'm sure Andy Heck had been doing his job. He had been working with King Suma. He had been working with Wanya Morris. We've seen it. We've seen him working with him. And so we was able to get something out of Wanya Morris. We was able to see that. He was able to get something out of Wanya Morris. King Suma was going to come in and come play. Some of it was just confidence. But sometimes some of these guys do take time. A coach can only work what he can work with. Okay. He has a landscape to develop guys to their capability. Some guys have ceilings, okay? And it may have to take a year for King Suma to get to where he needed to get to where he's going against NFL defenses for the entire year, just to be comfortable. But Andy Heck has been doing a great job here. He has. So I just wanted to push back against that because I see people just calling for his neck, okay? So I do want to address some of the things out here, though, that people are saying, all right? And I kind of agree and disagree here a little bit. So Pono Kawhi, appreciate you, Pono. Good seeing you out here. He said Humphrey signing was horrible. He never was physically capable. Broken glass, collecting a paycheck. I disagree with that. And as somebody has said over here that G-Pick said, I didn't see any better solution. Chiefs had to work with what they had. So we were kind of caught with a rock in the hard place, right? We came in to training camp having a rookie and a guy that was in his second year at our starting left tackle. And the reality is we had a chance to address this the entire offseason, and we didn't. We did not. Because we felt like we was going to go, they knew they were going to probably get a tackle in the draft, and they bet on it and banked on it. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out. And so he had some issues and some problems. Wanya Morris came in. He did a pretty decent job. Then all of a sudden he got hurt. He had been hurt pretty much off and on during training camp. That's kind of set him back as well. So then all of a sudden we had to go get a DJ Humphries, the guy who was coming off an ACL injury. And so we had to work with what we had to work with. Sometimes other guys, tackles, don't want to work with a team-friendly deal. We knew Donovan Smith was here last year. He would have did a damn decent job coming here. If we were sitting over here talking about, we would have loved to have Orlando Brown that last game. Everybody ran him out of town. We couldn't pay him the money he was asking. Wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it doing that. So, but we found ourselves in this situation where now all of a sudden we're doing patchwork and we're doing musical chairs, moving guys around. But my question is, and this is why I want to get a definitive answer, and I wish somebody had asked Andy Heck, was DJ Humphrey not available and good enough to start during the playoffs? Did y'all just decide to go ahead and roll the dice on this and say, hey, let's go ahead and just stick with what we stuck with? That was a question. So that's what I want to. That's what I need to get answered. I want the answer to that. Okay, that's my question. Okay, if you felt like this was the better, line to put in, and decision to be made, fine. I guess you roll with it, right? But I can see here in this statement right here, there's some reticence there. But Andy Heck, did he have this always, all the way through? Or at some point, did he just buy in and say, okay, we'll just go ahead and keep rolling with it? Or was it something that's back of his mind, like it was in the back of my mind, like, are we going to be able to sustain this? See, because when we sit there and we watch them, I said Garrett showed how he was pushing the pocket, pushing Joe Thuney back on Patrick Mahomes. That was the blueprint of how you attack us. We just start seeing teams doing that. And not to mention the same thing we go to, somebody else said in here, ran it 7 times in a game for our running backs. That's crazy. We addressed that too. So it's just not just having those guys there. Well, let's help a Mike Caliendo out. Let's help a Joe Thuney out. How you do that? Run the daggone football. And we chose not to do that, Marcus. Even though we had Pacheco and we had Kareem Hunt, we just didn't. And they dared us to run it. They dared us to run the daggone football, and we did not. So I think, it's a myriad of things, man, that just was to our detriment, that didn't help us out, especially on the offensive line that game.
Yeah,
but
it's easy to just have one person to blame for that, and that's what Andy Heck has been facing for the last week and a day, last 8 days. Andy Heck's been coming out of the gun. And I did see a comment here. I think it was Amda. He asked, I can respect what you guys said, but in the game for history, no O-line changes were made. Who owns that? Is that head coach or O-line coach? That's not going to be Andy Heck's call, right, JD?
I think, man, Andy Reid trusts Andy Heck. And I'm sure Andy Heck gave all of his expertise, all of his input to make a decision. So they rolled with it. Andy was fine to do that. So for them, they thought the guys were going to be able to get it done. So who do you put it on? Well, part of it goes to everybody. Everybody gets to blame on this Amda Brown. It's the coaches, Andy, both Andys, and the O-line. Because you have a job to do. And that's it. You get paid money to do your job. That's how it works in the NFL. This is a performance-based business, Marcus. That's what it is. Okay? And it's not for the faint of heart. We put you in, for big boy times. You got to show up like a big boy. That's how it works. But you also got to help those guys out. Coordinators, game plans. You got to help those guys out. If you see those guys ears peeled back, teeing off on us, change it up.
So everyone wants to go back to coaching, but Amda brings up another good question here. He asked this on Twitter last week. But if run plays aren't being called in, can Mahomes or should Mahomes audible to run plays if it's becoming a trend where it's like, man, it's first half, we're coming to a close. We only got 3 carries for our running backs, and we're about to end that to go to go to halftime. Should that be on him to audible out of plays to call run plays if they're not coming in?
No, look, he's got to trust the staff around him, what they see. Obviously, he thinks what they're calling it is going to work. Plus, also too, Amda Brown. If you got 7 in the box, you're not calling it a run because they got numbers. And so usually when you see a light box or maybe 6, then he has the ability to maybe check it over. Especially when it comes to the RPOs and whatnot. Pat couldn't do that. But I don't think Pat is sitting over saying like, okay, let's check to a run on this one particularly, especially if it's just a pass play. And he's just like, no, check. We're going to go to run. Pat could have that ability to do it. I'm not sure, he hasn't at times, especially if he sees it. But RPO, he definitely has that ability to check to that. That's why RPOs are so easy to kind of do, because you can see what's in the box, how you make the count, who you're blocking, much easier thing. But other than that, man, you start having him call run plays on everything, man. That's just putting too much on him that he really doesn't need to do. That's what he pay the coaches. Everybody get paid. Everybody get paid to do a job. Part of theirs is planning and scouting and make sure the game plan is put together that when you see this, they're supposed to do that. They're supposed to do that.
King Mo said, would you all give King Suma a shot at right guard? We actually talked about this on our show last week just because, they were thinking about putting him at left guard. But, yeah, I mean, and also, too, you got to give credit. Andy Heck's probably part of the reason why King Suma is now a guard, because he probably sees like, hey, like not cutting bait or ending the experiment with King Suma, but a lot of people said that he could have been better off at guard coming out. That was kind of why he lasted so long in the draft. Everybody else is drafting left tackles. King Suma lasts to where he lasts because there's kind of it wasn't a consensus. Oh, he's going to be the guy at left tackle. A lot of people thought he should continue to play right tackle or even move to guard. Do you think that if we do move off from Trey Smith, do you think he's got kind of first dibs at taking over the right guard spot?
It could be him. It could be Wanya Morris. I think either one of those guys could play that position. It'd be easier for those guys to actually be able to do it. Strength is the question. Are they strong enough for it? And while I'm saying this, on Wednesday, I'm actually asked the guy to come on our show. It's going to be a hell of a treat. Y'all going to love it. Mike Boyle. If y'all don't know who Mike Boyle is, okay? Mike Boyle is the guy that is, probably one of the most premier developmental guys as far as like sports science and whatnot in America, and he has been for a long time. So we're going to talk a little bit about the draft and getting those things ready from him. But I'm telling you, high caliber guy, Mike Boyle's at. Just look at Mike Boyle up. But incredible guy that's going to come on here. I actually worked out with him when I was going into the draft. So he's going to grace his presence, man, on our show. So we got some good things to talk about. But he's a legend. He's a legend as far as with that. When people go and talk about like workouts and all those different things, getting guys ready, Mike Boyle's the guy that you go to learn about it all. So. But anyway, kind of going from that, yeah. If these guys get strong enough to play that position, like I said, it's easier when you could get your hands on a guy immediately to stop their charge, and those guys can do that. That's why I had a little bit. This was part of my criticism with Trey, somewhat. Okay, I love Trey Smith. Trey Smith is a very powerful, hard-nosed, nasty guard. How he plays, how he blocks. I love Trey. I think sometimes when in pass protection, he would just give a little bit up as far as ground. And so the depth of the pocket, there was times I used to see him doing that, when he was a few years. He's gotten better at it. But, yeah, if Trey asking for too much money or whatever happens, I mean, it's going to be hard to sign Trey. We can make him a priority, especially if you try to do offensive line. DJ Humphries is another guy for me that we can do. But we addressed, I think, that guard area, Marcus, in the draft. Norzad is another one. Norzad could go play that position. He's a center, but he could definitely go play right or left guard.
Yep.
You just move one spot over. Like I said, it's not like being out on the island like tackles. So much easier for them. They can handle that. The guys inside, which are the monsters, the big boys, they'll be fine.
I mean, look, they're expending a lot of draft capital to the offensive line. They have, people want to dog us. Again, we're picking 30, 31, 32 over the last every draft. So, I mean, you're not getting the premier blue chippers. It ain't not happening, guys. I mean, so it's like I've seen some people complaining about things. We're drafting, King Suma, second round. Wanye was a third round pick. Creed Humphrey was a second round pick. I mean, like, we are drafting guys in Norzad, who went late in this draft. They said he could have gone even like 2 rounds higher than where we got him.
Yeah.
We're expending a lot of assets for offensive line. Now that's not on Andy Heck to make sure that King Suma is the premier blindside guy. Cause again, he played 52% of the time, right tackle, 48% of the time, left tackle. Guy, he wasn't jumping off the draft boards as this guy's been left tackle. Yeah. Some people in the Chiefs Kingdom who are the content creators were like, oh man, he's the left tackle of our future. Like, whoa, hold off here a little bit.
Hey man, listen, it takes time to develop guys, and I know Pono was talking about it. Like he said, usually guys don't develop not from the first year, but yeah, we could use Patrick Mahomes as that. We gave him a year to develop, and it was necessary. So sometimes you got to give some guys some space. to develop, to get used to like the whole speed of the game, the strength of the game, all those different things, maybe the complexities of it as well. So that's why you give them like a 4-year contract, a 3 year and a fourth, and so they can develop. And it may just be later on down the road, Marcus. Who's to say Kiyosuma might come out and be a monster? He might shoot. He might be the left tackle. We don't know. We don't know. We just know when we put him in, he wasn't the left tackle right now.
Them putting him at guard like already, does that tell you that they may be done with the left tackle or just a tackle project with him, or as a more just for the 2024 Chiefs team, it was better for him to be a guard this year?
I think it was better for the 2024 for him to be guard. Give you, I hate to say easier assignment because it's not easy. I don't care. It's the NFL. Nothing's easy. But something that he could maintain. Okay. Something that, like I said, he could actually put his hands on guys and he's not in space. Easier for him to work than that. He's got good feet. He's got all those different things like that. He's got a good punch to him. Very strong. But out in space is you're a whole different animal out there, man. Whole different animal. And like I said, we went back to everybody was talking about Willie Roaf and all that. Hold on. Same thing everybody tried to talk about Wiley being Travis Kelce. I'm like, hey, man, don't do that to him.
I'm still seeing. I saw a tweet today saying that exact thing about Wiley.
Man, come on, man. We just need for him to be Wiley right now. That's it. So we just want these guys to play well. Okay. If he develops into that, beautiful, perfect. But we're not going to put that man on that man's shoulders to do that, man. That's just unfair to him. It is. It's unfair to him. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Seeing some comments about Norzad. I'm actually talking to Norzad to get him on the show this offseason. So we're going to get Hunter Norzad potentially, can compete for the guard spot if Trey Smith goes. So we'll get him on to discuss all things Chiefs offensive line and Andy Heck too. And hopefully you guys can hear straight up from a player who's played under Andy Heck for at least a season. He can tell you a little bit about Andy Heck and, that he's not just some guy that some people think he is, which you would think a guy who's been in the coaching as long as he has would get a little bit more respect than he's gotten, JD. I don't get it.
Listen, when you have a game of this magnitude and it all falls apart, everybody's going to get the blame. And it's immediately like, let's go for your head, fire you from the job. Well, what about the years that Andy Heck has been doing that we've been winning Super Bowls and been going?
Yeah.
Nobody talked about the resume then. Also, we get beaten in the head. Oh my God, get rid of Andy Heck. We need to move on. What?
Yeah. Well, what I hear is it's 2 Super Bowls we've been beaten down because of offensive line. That belongs to Andy Heck. It's like, okay, that last Super Bowl, contextually, we were playing with a bunch of 2s and 3s. You expected those guys to come out against the vicious pass rush of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and play like stars all of a sudden? I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crazy. Linda Hunter said number 87 is dissing and strong right now. This show is, boy. They've been on his head. And that's what it is. Like when you see loss, the team, don't succeed where you think they should. There's gonna be a lot of criticism that comes from a lot of different voices. Okay. Some inside your own walls. Some that supposedly Chiefs, fans and, shows and stuff. Like we'll do it. We'll talk about a guy on certain things. We try to be realistically based on these things as well. Like we'll give you high praise, but we will critique you too. And that's important to do. We can deal in reality. But sometimes I see jokers just want to just dump on guys' heads. And I'm sitting there thinking like, oh man, don't do that. Like you being unfair. And it's just, oh man, the shame and all this, they're the worst, and why they're da. I'm like, I can't even listen to something like that.
Yeah.
I can't.
The worst is like, forget national media. I know, I get more with the stuff like that, the Kelsey dogging and like Andy Heck and Matt Nagy getting out of here, like those kind of comments. It's like, I think it's way worse when it's our own Chiefs content creators because it's like, you guys have been covering the team at least for a year or two or however long the dynasty's been going on. I don't expect that from the Chiefs content creators. The national media guys who maybe watch our games, they've watched maybe 6 games all year, and maybe the games are nationally televised. But like, I expect that from them because it's a hot take stuff, but like people who follow and cover the Chiefs, like, other YouTubers and stuff, it's like I expect a little bit more from those types of people, but I'm hearing that even from them, like, oh, Kelce needs to be cut or retire. He's not going to take a pay cut, and it's like, well, you don't know if he's not going to take a pay cut. I mean, he might. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. The guy wants to win if he does want to end his career in Kansas City. But like he needs to retire. It's like, what? What do you mean he needs to retire? What are you talking about?
It's crazy. When I seen it, one put out on our tweet, I was like, man, you're not a serious person. You're not a serious man then. You speaking this way. He was still fifth in yards and catches and in all categories. Still fifth. And he missed one game. And this is him, the first 3 games, not really catching footballs. So go off if you will. Go off if you must. But that come on, man. Yeah. We ain't talking serious about this. But
Cordell Ingram says it here. A couple of our own content creators went straight click. But yeah, I've seen it. I'm not going to call out anybody by name, but like, it's just I expect more from the people who do follow the team like us, because I know some of these content creators, they all follow the team. They watch the same things we're watching, but like, do you actually think they're just trying to get more clicks and views? Because like there's certain takes that I've seen over the last few days. And I'm like, wait, this is a Chiefs fan saying this? And it's like, what?
Yeah. No, I get it, man. We had one dude, man, to sit there and said that he thought the game was over at the second series that we had
of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was over after our first.
I was talking about you. I was just messing with you.
No, but that was in the second half. That was after the 5 plays of our first drive in the second half. That's why I was like, okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you meant like the first half. No.
No, I was wondering why you said that, Jim. I was like, well, I mean, at that point, the game.
Yeah, I was like, what? I read it like the first half, but I'm just messing with you. I'm just, look, we know where we are with this, man. We know, okay, because we speak about this thing all the time. But no, I'm talking about the other people for sure, Marcus, as well, man. Like one thing that we do, and what I do appreciate it is, because when we get in here, we start discussing and start talking about it, right? We can, like, okay, yeah, like this makes a whole lot of sense. Because I don't want to just be led by emotions, right? And this first thing you do is rip everything up and like, man, get rid of him, man. You need to cut him and all it. Hey, man, we're talking about people's lives here. But also, too, yeah, guys need to play better. No question. Like, we can talk real. We can talk real. And that's why I love you for it, because I know you talk real, man. I know you watch ball, man. We get into it. But, yeah, Greg Rose says some is just opinion, some just great drama. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it is like clickbait, because you get viewerships and all those different things. And sometimes people buy into it. They want bad things to happen. They want to hear all the negative stuff on it, right? Yeah, you feel the same way I feel. Like, daggone, you ain't going to have no perspective, a balanced, objective look at things. But it's like, shoot, we want to get rid of everybody.
You see the thumbnails on these like YouTube videos. It's like Kelce needs to retire, and it's like a shock face, like, and it's like, it's like, what?
What you gonna take this out? Like, what do you think? It's like, no, man, don't fall for it. Don't fall for the clickbait. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.